Well, we made it, guys. The final episode of The Mandalorian Season 3. It's been one hell of a journey making a video for every episode, and I gotta say, I don't think I'm ever doing this again. I'll probably stick to the one video per season because I'm gonna be honest with you guys, this was hard to do with my schedule. Don't get me wrong, I'm proud of all of these videos, but it was around the episode 4 video where I thought to myself, alright, maybe this wasn't such a good idea. But I will never go back on my word, so here we are at the last episode. For this video, I'll talk about the episode as usual, but I'll also sprinkle in my thoughts on the season as a whole. But for now, let's answer the question everyone's been asking. Does episode 8 make season 3 worth watching? No, not even close. To be fair, the season finale isn't a bad episode. It's actually quite entertaining to watch. But if you've kept up with me this far, you know the biggest thing I critique is the story. And as for this episode, well, there isn't really any story. I mean, the finale is just a big battle to save Mandalore. There's barely any plot because most of the screen time is taken up by people fighting. There was no big twist, nothing to really subvert my expectations, and no character goes through any sort of major development. It's all very vanilla.
It's vanilla.
I mean, I shouldn't be surprised because if anyone's gonna play it safe, it's gonna be Disney. But still, I was hoping for some kind of twist at least. But despite this, the fight scenes are done pretty well, for the most part. I really like Din's hallway fight. The ray shields make for a more interesting battle than just Din taking on all these guys at once. This and the aerial jetpack battles are so much fun to watch. You know, even though I may not like the story surrounding these battles, sometimes the visuals look so cool that it's impossible for me to hate it. I mean, look at this shit. This is what I think of when I think of Mandalorians. But let's backtrack a bit here because I want to talk about Gideon's clones. I got the feeling that this was supposed to be the big twist in this episode, but honestly, it felt pretty useless. For one, they get destroyed right away, so we barely get any time to take it all in. And two, it doesn't really do anything for Gideon's character. Like, we originally thought these were test clones for Palpatine or Smoke, or hell, even Starkiller. But it turns out they're just more of Gideon. It just felt pretty anticlimactic. And speaking of Gideon, I kinda lost some respect for him after how stupid he is in this episode. Like, why didn't he just kill Din when he had the chance? He decides to take him away, but minutes later says,
I'll take care of him myself.
And then proceeds to do absolutely nothing to stop Din from destroying his clones. He literally just waits for Mando to show up like some final boss battle shit. Additionally, does he really think he can take Din on his own after what happened last time? I always thought Moff was supposed to be an evil genius type villain, whose strength comes from his intellect rather than his combat skills. Similar to Gustavo Fring. It felt like he just fought Din and Bo just so we could see a cool action scene, making his death feel unsatisfying and honestly pretty boring. But speaking of boring, Bo-Katan falls pretty flat during this finale. Even though she's been my favorite character this season, I'm not surprised she got the ending that was destined for her. I'm honestly glad the episode rushes through her coronation because I saw that shit coming a mile away. It's just so disappointing because the entire season pushes Din to the sidelines so Bo can have the spotlight. And this is what we get? This feels like a fucking kid's show, man. The only cool scene with Bo is the underground garden. Getting to know about the planet's natural life is super interesting. And honestly, it's here where I thought the crew was going to, rest and formulate a tactical counterattack to defeat the Imperials. But no, within 30 seconds they're rushing into battle guns blazing. I mean, at least it looks cool. Bo's final battle with Gideon is also nothing to write home about. I will say I'm a little annoyed that the Darksaber gets destroyed. I really like the Darksaber, but more importantly, what does this actually do for the story? There are no consequences for this happening and it's not even addressed later in the episode. Like, were they trying to do a Last Jedi moment here? I mean, say what you will about that movie, but the destruction of Anakin's lightsaber was actually a significant moment for both Rey and Kylo. That is until they f it up by repairing it later, but this scene doesn't even come close to that level of symbolism. I'd argue that it actually undermines everything the Darksaber represented in seasons 1 and 2. In a fucked up way, it kinda represents how Disney takes everything with potential and destroys it. Just like how they destroyed Grogu's character. This little green bastard got shafted so hard this season, he makes Finn look like a well-written character. Because look at this little guy. Look at how they massacred my boy. I knew they weren't going to do anything with him after episode 4, but the worst part is that it would have been so easy to make him relevant this season. You didn't need to give him an Iron Man suit or a useless flashback. All they needed to do, and brace yourself for this ingenious idea, is make him struggle with the dark side. I know what you're thinking. Son, that's literally Star Wars 101. And to that I say, yes, it is. While watching Grogu fight these Praetorian guards, which by the way are looking more like their Last Jedi versions by the second, I realized it would have been so nice to see Grogu get angry and force choke someone, especially when Din is getting his ass beat. Just imagine this for a second. Grogu watches in fear as Mando gets jumped by 3 Praetorian guards, and in a moment of pure rage, picks up all 3 guards and crushes their throats, leaving Mando speechless. Wouldn't that be so sick? Or imagine that's how Gideon dies and Bo's like, "Did you teach him that?"
You didn't learn that from me.
They could have had little moments throughout the whole season hinting at Grogu's internal struggle with the dark side, building up to a point where he actually kills someone and Din has to cope with it. Considering Grogu's training with Luke was unfinished, it's not far-fetched that he would tap into the dark side in moments of fear. I mean, Grogu is only a child, and with Din knowing nothing of the Force, it could be interesting to see how he handles Grogu's struggle. It would also give Din more of a purpose this season considering he's basically on the benches the whole time. Mando being taken out of his own show has become a big problem for a lot of fans. A lot of you guys blame Bo for stealing his spotlight, but honestly, it's not her fault. The reason why Din doesn't feel important anymore is because he lacks any sort of emotional conflict. Take Book of Boba Fett for instance. Even though Din wasn't the star of that show, he was still the most interesting character because of his inner conflict during Grogu's training with Luke. There is no inner conflict now. Mando only exists as someone to fight bad guys. There's nothing for him to overcome or learn. Grogu struggling with the dark side could have been that conflict for him. Because let's be honest, Din is a loving father, we know this. But we don't get to see a lot of him being a supportive father. Like, how would he deal with his son struggling with power far greater than his own? Every Jedi in history learned to be good from another Jedi. Grogu could have been the first to learn this from a non-Force user. I don't know, that's just one way they could have done Din better. I mean, it would have been better than whatever this crap was. This scene where they used the power of friendship to defeat Moff felt so lame, man. Also, the whole adoption thing felt a little useless. I thought it was clear that he was Grogu's dad, but I guess now it's official? I mean, that's cool, I guess. Moving on to the final scenes. I know I said, why is Grogu walking like Mr. Krabs? I know I said I like Carson Teva, but why does his line delivery sound so lame here?
We really appreciate what you did. You made our jobs a lot easier.
I know it's a small thing, but this felt like an NPC interaction. Anyway, at this point in the episode, my rating was already pretty solid. With only 5 minutes left, there's no way they could mess this up more, right?
Citizens.
God damn it, man. Do you think Disney does this on purpose? Do you think they purposely create great plot points just so they can completely undermine them later? Because at episode 1, I was like, they wouldn't be dumb enough to bring this character back to life. And when they didn't, I thought, see, yeah, I knew they weren't that stupid. But they are. They are that stupid. Just why, man? I think it's time to bring out the rad or bad meter. This last episode actually puts the meter here, just below the halfway point. If you want, you can call this a 4.8, but I'm gonna say that between rad and bad, this season is whack. From the very start, this season was not it. Like I've said, barely anything in this season is caused by one another. Things just happen until we eventually get to a final confrontation that feels forced and rushed. Instead of focusing on our main characters, most of the screen time is wasted on useless filler quests or unengaging fights. In fact, this whole season felt like filler. Think about it. What actually changed from the beginning of this season to the end? Yeah, Bo is now the ruler of Mandalore, but Din and Grogu are literally the same people. I bet you could watch season 4 right after they reunite in Book of Boba Fett and nothing would be different. On top of that, retaking Mandalore never even felt like a monumental achievement because at no point were we led to believe that it wouldn't happen. There were never any real stakes to begin with. At this point, I feel like I could just keep listing bad things about this show. The more I think about it, the more angry I get, because after Andor, I thought Disney had finally got it. Yeah, The Mandalorian is for a different audience, but I would have at least imagined they would put out something with some sort of soul. This whole season reeks of executive manhandling, and to be honest, it feels like they spat in our faces and told us to be grateful. I think our only hope for now is Ahsoka. With the rumors of Jon fully handling that on his own, there's a good chance it will be good. But personally, I won't believe it until I see it. And with that, our journey with The Mandalorian Season 3 comes to an end. If you've been with me since the first video, I cannot thank you enough for your support. And if you're new to the channel, feel free to stay a while and check out some other Star Wars videos. I have a lot of big ideas for this channel, both Star Wars and non-Star Wars related, but if any of you guys have video ideas for me, I'd love to hear suggestions. Like I said, I probably won't be able to do episodic reviews for a while because of my work schedule, but that's not to say it won't happen again. Thank you again for all your support and watching this video. I'll catch you next time.